right, so I'm Marcus, 34M. For the past 10 years, I've poured my blood, sweat, and a frankly alarming amount of caffeine into building my restaurant business here in Melbourne. Started with one tiny hole-in-the-wall cafe, and now I've got 3 successful spots. It's been my life, my passion. I'm not saying I'm rolling in cash like some tech billionaire, but I'm comfortable, secure, and I've worked my arse off for every bit of it. About 3 years ago, I met Sophie, 31F. She was charming, witty, beautiful, the whole package, or so I thought. She seemed genuinely interested in my life, my work, which is rare, because restaurant hours are brutal. We clicked. Fast forward through the usual relationship milestones, moving in together, meeting families, blending lives. It felt right. Or, at least, the version of right I'd always imagined. Last year, around this time actually, May 2024, I proposed. She said yes, tears in her eyes, the whole 9 yards. We started planning the wedding, a nice, intimate affair in the Yarra Valley for this coming spring, October 2025. I was genuinely excited. I loved Sophie, or at least, the person I believed her to be. I'd even, without her knowing, put a hefty deposit down on a beautiful little house in Fitzroy North. My plan was to surprise her with it after the wedding, our forever home. I'd already sunk a good chunk of my savings into it, picturing her reaction, our future there. God, I was such a fool. The cracks started to appear subtly, so subtly I almost dismissed them as wedding stress or my own paranoia. Sophie became increasingly interested in my finances. Not in a supportive, let's plan our future together way, but more, inquisitive. Lots of questions about the business's profitability, my personal investments, how joint accounts would work after we were married. I chalked it up to her being practical, wanting to be informed. She'd also become a bit more secretive with her phone, lots of hushed conversations with her best friend, Jess, often ending in giggles. Again, wedding planning, excitement, right? Wrong. So catastrophically wrong. The night my world imploded was a Tuesday, about 4 months ago, say, mid-January 2025. I'd had an incredibly long day. One of my chefs called in sick, suppliers were late, the usual restaurant chaos. I left the city restaurant around 11 p.m., exhausted, just wanting to get home to Sophie and collapse. Our apartment was quiet when I got in. I figured she was asleep. I poured myself a glass of water in the kitchen and was about to head to the bedroom when I heard it, her voice, coming from the spare room we used as an office. She was on the phone. But it wasn't the words that initially stopped me dead in my tracks, it was the tone. It was gleeful, almost, predatory. And she was laughing. A cold, calculating kind of laugh that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. I crept closer, heart hammering against my ribs. And then I heard it. Clear as day. Oh my God, Jess, he's so clueless, it's almost too easy, Sophie was saying, still chuckling. The honeymoon in the Maldives is all booked on his Amex. First thing when we land, I'm transferring everything out of the joint accounts we're setting up next week. He'll be too busy sipping cocktails to notice for a day or two. My stomach dropped. I felt like I was going to be sick. Joint accounts? We hadn't even finalized that. I'd suggested it, as a way to manage household expenses after the wedding, but it wasn't set in stone. Jess's voice on the other end was muffled, but Sophie's reply was chillingly clear. Exactly. And then, once we're back, I give it a month, maybe 2, just to make it look good, then BAM. Divorce papers. My lawyer says because we'll be married, and he told me he was buying a house for us, even if he hasn't officially put my name on it yet, I can claim half. He's been so focused on the surprise, he won't even see it coming. All that hard work building his precious restaurants? Half of that value will be mine too. He'll be devastated, but honestly, he's a workaholic. He'll rebuild. I'll be set for life. The air rushed out of my lungs. The Fitzroy North house. She knew. How did she know? Had I let something slip? Or had she been snooping, planning this meticulously? The sheer audacity, the cold-blooded cruelty of it. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, then kicked while I was down. This woman I was planning to spend my life with, the woman I loved, was plotting to financially ruin me, laughing about it with her friend. My first instinct was pure, unadulterated rage. I wanted to storm in there, confront her, scream until my voice gave out. But then, a strange sort of calm washed over me. A cold, hard clarity. She wasn't just going to hurt me, she was going to try and destroy everything I'd worked for my entire adult life. And I couldn't let that happen. She thought I was clueless? Fine. Let her keep thinking that. For now. I backed away silently, my mind racing. I went into our bedroom, undressed, and got into bed, pretending to be asleep when she finally came in an hour later, humming happily. Lying there next to her, feeling her warmth, knowing what she was planning, it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Every instinct screamed at me to react, but I knew, with absolute certainty, that my only way out was to play this smart. The next morning, I went to work like nothing was wrong. Smiled, kissed her goodbye. The moment I was out the door, I called my best mate, Ben. Ben's known me since primary school. He's a lawyer, sharp as a tack, and the most loyal friend a guy could ask for. I met him for an emergency coffee, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the cup. I laid it all out, every sickening detail. Ben listened, his expression growing grimmer with every word. When I finished, he just stared at me for a long moment, then said, "Mate, we're getting you out of this. Cleanly. And we're making sure she doesn't get a single cent she's not entitled to right now, which is nothing." And so began Operation Dodged a Bullet. Over the next 3 weeks, Ben and I meticulously planned my escape. It was like a covert operation. Sophie was busy with her own wedding preparations, which I now realized were probably more about her future financial windfall than our supposed nuptials. Finances first, Ben advised me to immediately separate all our finances. Thankfully, the joint accounts she was banking on hadn't been fully established with large sums. I had my business accounts, my personal savings, and the house deposit was solely from my funds, in my name only. I changed all my passwords, PINs, everything. Ben also drafted documents to protect my business assets, ensuring they were clearly ring-fenced. The house in Fitzroy North? I immediately spoke to the real estate agent and, on Ben's advice, explored options to pull out of the sale if necessary, or ensure it remained indisputably mine, which it was, as no joint ownership had been established. The deposit was at risk if I pulled out, but better than losing half the house. Luckily, since it was solely in my name and premarital, her claim would have been weak, but the threat of a messy legal battle was her weapon. The Great Escape. We picked a day when Sophie was scheduled to be out all day for a spa day with Jess, probably plotting their victory speeches. Ben rounded up a couple of his most discreet mates, and we hired a small moving truck. In the space of 6 hours, we cleared out every single one of my belongings from the apartment we shared. Clothes, books, kitchen gear I'd bought, sentimental items, business documents, everything. We left her stuff untouched. The apartment suddenly felt eerily empty, like a stage set after the actors have gone home. Canceling the apocalypse, aka the wedding. This was tough. Deposits had been paid. Guests invited. But it had to be done. I drafted a short, factual email to all the vendors, venue, caterer, florist, band, informing them that due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding was cancelled. I CC'd Ben on everything. Some deposits were lost, a bitter pill to swallow, but a small price to pay for my freedom. I then sent a carefully worded group message to my family and close friends. Deeply regret to inform you the wedding is off. Irreconcilable differences. Will explain more when I can. Please respect my privacy for now. The note, this was the hardest and easiest part. I didn't want a confrontation. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of seeing me broken, even though I was, in many ways. I wrote a short, brutally honest note. No accusations, no lengthy explanations. Just facts. I left it on the kitchen counter, right where she'd leave her keys. It read, "Sophie, I overheard your phone call with Jess on Tuesday night. I know about your plan to empty the joint accounts after the honeymoon and divorce me for half the house and my business assets. The wedding is off. All my belongings are gone. Our joint finances, which were minimal, thankfully, have been separated. My lawyer is aware of the situation. Do not attempt to contact me. Consider this goodbye. Marcus." Then, I walked out of that apartment, out of that life, and didn't look back. I changed my phone number that same day. Blocked her on all social media, not that I used it much anyway. Ben handled any legal loose ends, though there weren't many, as we weren't married. The fallout, as you can imagine, was explosive, at least from her end. Ben told me later, he was my filter for a while, that she called him, hysterical, crying, denying everything, then switching to threats, then back to pleading. She bombarded my old number with calls and texts, which obviously went unanswered. She tried to reach out to my parents, my siblings. But I'd already given them a very brief, very edited version. She wasn't the person I thought she was, and the wedding was off for serious reasons I couldn't yet share. They respected it, bless them. The first few weeks were a blur. I moved into a small, temporary furnished place Ben found for me. I threw myself into work, 16-hour days, anything to keep my mind from replaying that sickening phone call, the image of her laughing. There was grief, too. I was mourning the woman I thought Sophie was, the future I thought we had. It was a gut-wrenching betrayal on a level I couldn't have imagined. But as the weeks turned into months, something shifted. The anger and pain began to subside, replaced by a quiet sense of relief. A profound, overwhelming sense of having dodged not just a bullet, but a nuclear warhead. I started focusing on myself. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my all-consuming relationship and work life. I even started sketching again, an old hobby I'd loved. And my business? It thrived. Freed from the emotional drain of a toxic relationship and the impending doom of financial ruin, I found a renewed sense of focus and creativity. I launched a new menu at my flagship restaurant that got rave reviews. I signed the lease on a fourth location, a vibrant spot in St. Kilda, something I'd been hesitant about before. That Fitzroy North house? The sale went through, solely in my name. I'm renovating it now, for myself. It's becoming my sanctuary, a symbol of my reclaimed life. As for Sophie? Well, karma is a patient beast. I heard through the grapevine, Melbourne's a small town in some ways, that her life took a nosedive. Her plan to bleed me dry had spectacularly backfired. There were no joint accounts to empty, no marital assets to claim. The friends she was so chummy with, like Jess, seemed to evaporate when the money and status she was chasing didn't materialize. Apparently, her family, once they got wind of the full story, bits and pieces always leak out, were horrified and distanced themselves. Last I heard, she'd lost her job, something about her performance tanking under the stress of her failed master plan, and had to move into a less than glamorous share house. I don't take any joy in her downfall. Okay, maybe a tiny, vindictive sliver of me does, I'm only human. But mostly, I just feel a profound sense of detachment. She made her choices, and now she's living with the consequences. It's May 2025 now. Almost 5 months since I walked out. The wedding was supposed to be this coming October. Instead of planning table arrangements and stressing about vows, I'm scouting locations for a 5th restaurant and planning a solo trip to Tasmania to hike and clear my head. Life is good. Better than good. It's peaceful. It's mine. This whole nightmare taught me a brutal, invaluable lesson. Sometimes, the bravest, strongest thing you can do is walk away. Trust your gut. Protect what you've built. The pain of betrayal is immense, but it's not as crippling as staying in a situation that's designed to destroy you. Walking away, as hard as it was, led me to something far better: freedom, self-respect, and a future that's entirely my own. So, if you're out there, seeing little red flags that make you uneasy, please, don't ignore them. Don't make excuses. Sometimes the universe whispers, and sometimes it screams. Mine screamed, and I'm eternally grateful I finally listened. If you made it this far, you obviously liked the video, so please subscribe to help the channel.